In this episode of Film Stock Reviews, I'm reviewing episode 11 of Andor, titled Daughter of Ferrix. Now, basically, Luthen is still staying one step ahead of the Imperial Security Bureau, the ISB, while, trying to figure out what Deidre's doing. Now, Deidre is still trying to figure out herself that she doesn't know that her ISB kind of colleague, Lonnie, is working with Luthen. We also find out that Senator Mon Mothma kind of is trying to hide her fundraising from the Empire, but also forcing her to work with certain areas of things because of her 400,000 credits that is missing, but they have to put back in order to not raise any suspicion. The episode starts off with Andor and Melchi kind of hanging next to a cliff. They're still on NARKINA 5 after the escape that occurred in the previous episode. We have no idea what happened to the rest of the characters that escaped, not even Kino Loy. I'm pretty sure he will be mentioned. Now, they do their thing, and Andor's constantly keeps telling Melchi that they're leaving, and Melchi's kind of still nervous about certain things. Now, they are captured by Narkinians who look like they're from another planet, which they are, but they're done so well, and they're captured in these nets, but then they want to steal their ship. But it's like we're seeing the native species of this land, and it's really interesting because they'll turn them into the Empire, but then they kind of mention that the prison has kind of made the water and the agriculture of the food there very different. So they let Cassian and Melchi go, and they take their ship and they leave. Next scene, we find out that Marva, Cassian's adopted mother, has died of, or an unnamed ailment for that matter. And the planet's cold and her health kind of affected it, and everyone there kind of, pays their respects to her in a certain different way, because she is the main focal point in this episode, with her passing away and her dying, because word gets around that she has died, but nothing yet to Cassian Andor. Now, Android B2 Emo is really interesting because the character of the droid is so devastated by the loss of Marva, and doesn't want to leave the house, doesn't want to go anywhere, but wants to stay there because it's where Marva was. And B2 Emo is like, trying to, has that grieving process. And anytime you see an android grieve in the Star Wars universe, it's very emotional, but they do it in a way where it's really, really good. And with B2 Emo, it's done so well. Now, there is a kind of thing where, where we find out what bricking is. Bricking is basically a local custom in kind of the Ferrix way, where a person's ashes is mixed with mortar and local stone, dust into create a brick, and then insert it into a wall for like a burial, and remains become the part of the planet's structure. So it's really fitting that Marva is getting this done, and it's really interesting that they actually explain what happens to her. Now, there's a whole aspect between Vel, Mon Mothma's cousin, trying to find Luthen and everything, and then her meeting with her cousin, talking about what's happening, how much she owes, because we know Vel is literally worth a lot of money, but in the previous episodes at the beginning of this season, we thought she was really poor, but she wasn't, but she was just doing a job, a heist job, and that was it. Those aspects of the story really bring down the show a little bit, but it really gets going with Andor and Luthen when they're on screen. Cyril is contacted by one of his sergeants and basically says to him that Marva has died, and Cassian Andor could be at the funeral, and Cyril has this thing about catching Cassian. He was very the focal point in the first 3 episodes of this season, but then he just branched off and wasn't even considered anymore, and he's just popping in here and there. That character, I feel like, is a waste, since it's like a threat to Andor, but nothing else, because the story just goes off on a little tangent when Cyril is always on screen. Now, the big scene that I enjoy in this episode is the scene between Luthen and Saw Gerrera, and it's really done really well. Basically, Saw kind of learns that Luthen is kind of not wanting to work or do things with Anton Krieger. Anton Krieger, we find out what he looks like, and it's just an aspect of, is Saw Gerrera trying to figure out what's going on, and then the whole aspect is Luthen, wanting Saw Gerrera on his side, and it's really done really well. The scene was really well written. The dialogue is really well written. The last episode with Luthen giving his monologue about why he's doing what he's doing, and now with this talking to Saw Gerrera, is really done so well. Tony Gilroy writes amazing dialogue in the Star Wars universe, and it shows with every aspect of what's happening and how everything comes together. Anytime Stellan Skarsgård is on screen, the show picks up a little bit, even when Andor's on screen as well. Other aspects of the show kind of falter just a tad bit, but the writing is what saves the show a lot. Now, not only that, Luthen is kind of intercepted and captured by an Imperial arrestor cruiser whose kind of tractor beam stops Luthen's ship from going anywhere. Luthen does this kind of tactic where he escapes the tractor beam and just starts doing his thing, and it's really well done, quick fight scene, and it's really interesting how Luthen escapes, and the Imperial cruiser commanding officer just looks on and just shakes his head and he can't believe what just happened, you know. The aspect of Cassian tries to get a message out to Marva when he tries to get to one of his contacts, but the contact tells him that Marva has passed away and died. You see Cassian Andor's face, and it's just looking over out in the sunset on the beach, and he just looks distraught, emotional, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the season finale, which is episode 12. We know it's going to go into a season 2. We know that's going to go into Rogue One, but it's going to be interesting to see how everything works. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought about episode 11 of Andor, titled Daughter of Ferrix. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you think of it? What do you think is going to happen in the season finale? And what did you like and what didn't you like about this episode? Did you like the pacing of it? And how do you think everything's going to play out? Let me know in the comment section below about all the questions I just asked. And I'll see you all in the next review video. And be sure you tune in next week for my season finale review of Andor.